Okay, so let's come back. Uh, so these are the details that would need to be disclosed by the auditor with regard to the assets which belong to the company, but the ownership is not in the name of the company, or the title deeds are in the name of somebody else. Then of course it will also need to be commented in case if there has been any valuation done of the assets, and if the valuation has been done, that valuation should have been done by a registered valuer. That is what would need to be commented upon. And in case if there are any property again there are any if there are any proceedings initiated or pending against the company for holding any Benami property under the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988. So these are the disclosures, these are the comments that an auditor would need to insert with regard to the fixed assets of the company. Then friends, the clause 2 is about the inventory, and with regard to the inventory, the auditor will need to comment as part of the clause 2 as to whether the physical verification of the inventory has been done from the time to time, and whether in the opinion of the auditor the coverage and the procedure for such verification by the management is appropriate, and wherever the discrepancies are of more than 10% or more, then the aggregate of each class of inventory were noticed and they have been suitably accounted for. And in case if the company has been sanctioned working capital limits in excess of 5 crores, so obviously, and this is very common in case of the industry, because the working capital which is availed by the companies from the banks and the financial institutions is invariably against the security of the inventory. So there are disclosures required in case of a company has availed working capital finance against the inventory, and the disclosure will be that the quarterly returns or the statements which a company is required to submit to the bank, the auditor has to comment that the information furnished in those quarterly statements and the bank state and the stock statements are as per the records of the company. And friends, that is a big responsibility, and it is a very good safeguard as far as the banks are concerned. So these are the points that would need to be taken care of by the auditor as regards caro with regard to inventories. Then there's a clause number 3, and the clause number 3 is loan given by the company. So अब देखिए क्या होता है कि invariably many of these companies that we have in our country now, all these companies in and I'm not and this and remember, clause 3 is not applicable to those companies whose business is to give loans. So this will not be applicable to the companies whose business is to give loans or guarantee or security or investment. It is not applicable to those companies. It is applicable to only those companies which are normal operating manufacturing companies, and but they still lend money or give advances, give security, or give any guarantee. So the clause 3 is relating to loan given by companies. Now what does it say is whether during the year company has provided loans or provided advances in the nature of loans or stood guarantee or provided security to any other entity, the aggregate amount during the period has to be disclosed. The balance outstanding at the balance sheet date also has to be disclosed and commented with respect to such loans or advances. And not only that, it will also need to disclose as to how much of this loan or advances were given to companies which are joint ventures, which are associates, or which are subsidiary of the company. So that is what would need to be disclosed separately. And how much of these amounts were lent to companies and which were not subsidiaries, which were not associates, or which were not joint ventures of such a company. And the auditor will also need to make a comment with regard to these loans, that the terms and conditions of these loans which have been given by the company to others are not prejudicial to the interest of the company. That means the terms and conditions are not adversely in against the the company, that is what will need to be disclosed. And in respect of these loans and advances, the nature of loan, whether the schedule of repayment of principal and payment of interest has been stipulated, and whether the repayments or receipts are regular. अब देखिए, ये आप समझ सकते हैं कि इसके पीछे क्या इंटेंशन है. इसके पीछे गवर्नमेंट का इंटेंशन ये है, behind putting this clause in the CARO, that a company is using the money of the shareholders. A company is using the money of the landholder, of the lenders, and this money has to be used for the purpose of the company and not for anything else. And therefore, in case if a company is using the funds given by the shareholders, given by the lenders, for anything else other than the purpose of the company, then there has to be enough and adequate disclosure in the financials of the company, and there has to be a comment specifically by the auditors, so that the shareholders who gets the auditor's report is able to appreciate and understand as to how sincerely the company has been using the has been managing the resources given to it. And that is your clause number 3. And in case if there are any overdue payments, those are need to be disclosed. Overdue for more than 90 days are to be disclosed. And in case if these, many times there's a clause called evergreening. So what is evergreening? कि आपने एक किसी आपके जान पहचान वाले को लोन दिया, आपके किसी और कंपनी को लोन दिया, जान पहचान वाला हो या एसोसिएट कंपनी हो, सब्सिडरी कंपनी हो, जॉइंट वेंचर कंपनी हो. So you have given a loan to another entity, and this entity is not able to pay it to you. So what you are doing is you are evergreening it. That means to pay the previous loan, you are giving another loan to this company. And as a result of that, effectively what is happening is you are not getting your money paid back. And if that is the case, then the auditors are required to disclose in their audited report such a thing. The company has granted any loans or so this is your friends clause number 3. Then in case if the company has given loans and advances to directors of a company, then the auditor will need to make a comment as to whether provisions of section 185, which relates to loan to directors, and the provisions of section 186 that relates to loan and investment by a company, whether these provisions have been duly taken care of. So this is the confirmation that has to come from the auditor of the company in his audit report prepared as per section 143 of the Companies Act. So if the compliance, if the loans given to director are in line with section 185 and 186, then that confirmation has to come. And if it is not there, then that confirmation also has to come that though the company has given the loans to the directors, but it has not complied with the provisions of section 185 and 186, that is the obligation and the responsibility of the auditor of the company. Then there is a clause 5 which relates to deposits. So in case the company has accepted deposits or amounts which are deemed to be deposits, whether the following has been complied with. So the following conditions got to be complied with in case if a company has accepted deposit or there are certain amounts which are deemed to be deposits. So what are the compliances? Compliance number 1, whether the directives issued by Reserve Bank of India have been complied with, the provisions of section 73 to section 76, that is chapters 5, which is relating to acceptance of deposits by the companies, whether provisions of section 73 to 76 have been complied with. In case if there is an order issued by the NCLT or the Reserve Bank of India or any other court, whether those directives also have been complied with. Now that is again the auditor has to confirm in his audit report whether this has been done as regards to the deposit. If it has not been done, then he will have to again report in his audit report as to this is what the company has not complied with. Cost records. So clause 6 is about the cost records. So in case of certain companies, as per section 148, central government specifies audit of items, the cost audit of certain items in respect of certain companies. So अगर किसी company के लिए the government of India has specified cost audit, then the auditor has to confirm whether maintenance of cost record has been specified by the central government under subsection 1 of section 148 of the Companies Act, and whether such accounts and records have been so made and maintained. Very important, because if the government is specifying sorry, if the government is specifying maintenance of cost record, it is so because it understands the importance of the cost records in case of this company, whether this company has been mandated to keep the cost records. And if it has been mandated to keep the cost records, then the auditor has to confirm that the cost records have really been maintained. And please remember, it will not work and it should not work that the auditor getting a letter from the management confirming that we have maintained the audit record. That will not be suffice. The auditor will have to check himself personally and see that the cost records are truly maintained as per the requirement of section 148 subsection 1, and that relates to clause 6. Clause 7 talks about statutory dues, and I'm sure friends you can very easily understand. So what is the significance of the clause 7 in CARO relating to the statutory dues? Obviously it is the obligation of a company that this company has to pay all these statutory dues from time to time, whether under the Goods and Service Tax Act, Provident Fund, Employee State Insurance, Income Tax, Sales Tax, Service Tax, Duty of Customs, Duty of Excise, Value Added Tax, cess, and any other statutory dues. This is the obligation of the company to pay these dues from time to time to the respective government authorities. Now, in case if it has not been paid, then the auditor is supposed to be informing, commenting in his audit report, saying whether the company has paid them or whether the company has not paid them. And the auditor has to report with regard to those dues which are undisputed. So something which is in dispute, he does not have to report or comment. But in case if there are dues, Provident Fund dues, there is no dispute. GST dues, no dispute. And income tax dues, no dispute. But these dues not have been paid for a period of more than 6 months, then the auditors will have to report such non-compliance, such non-payment of the statutory dues in his audit report under section 143, that is clause number 7 on statutory dues. Then you have a clause number 8, and which is a new clause. It was not there in 2016 CARO, and this is clause 8 on unrecorded income. So whether any, and please remember this is very important because this is what can happen in many of the cases, whether any transaction not recorded in the books of account have been surrendered or disclosed as income during the year in the tax assessments under the Income Tax Act. That means, is there any income which was not recorded in the financial statements of the company, but subsequently during the tax assessments, income tax assessments, such income has been surrendered or such income has been disclosed. If there are any such amounts, then the auditor will need to make a comment and also make a disclosure in his audit report for the benefit of all the shareholders. It means what, friends? इसका मतलब ये है, this will require the auditor to also audit income tax returns of the entity to identify any such transactions which are not recorded in the books but disclosed as income during the tax assessments. So that becomes an additional responsibility on an auditor with regard to clause 8, which is on unrecorded income. यानी कि unrecorded income का मतलब क्या है कि an income which has been disclosed in the tax assessment but not recorded in the financial statements of the company. Repayment of loan, I'm sure clause number 9, company has to pay is loan that if the company has taken loan from banks and financial institutions, it is supposed to be paying. So the auditor has to, under clause 9, which is on repayment of loan, the auditor has to make a comment in his report whether the company has defaulted in payment of loans or other borrowings or in the payment of interest thereon to any lender. If yes, the period and the amount of default to be reported are to be reported in a prescribed format. So अगर एक कंपनी ने लोन लिया है और फाइनेंशियल ईयर में एक बैंक से या फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन से लोन लिया है और ये लोन या इसके इंटरेस्ट को पे करने में कंपनी ने डिफॉल्ट किया है, देन दिस डिफॉल्ट हैज़ टू बी रिपोर्टेड in a prescribed format, and the format has been given as part of the CARO. And what information will come in that format? Number 1, nature of borrowing including debt securities, that is number 1. Number 2, name of the lender, किससे, who is the lender. Number 3, amount not paid on due date, that will come. Number 4, whether it is the principal or interest which has not been paid. Number 5, number of days for which it has remained unpaid on the date of the balance sheet, and remarks if any. And that's your clause number 9 that will need to be commented by the auditor as for the CARO. Now, the auditor will also need to disclose whether the entity has been declared as a willful defaulter by any of the bank or financial institutions. And number 2, whether the company has used the amount of term loans for the purpose for which it was taken. If the amount was diverted, then the auditor will also need to mention and comment as to where the amount was diverted and how much amount was diverted and for what purpose it was diverted. It has to be disclosed. So, and number 4, in case if company has raised short-term funds which have been used for the long-term purposes. Please remember, it is suicidal. For any business, using the short-term sources for the long-term application is suicidal. अगर एक business को अपने को बंद करना है तो उस business ने क्या करना चाहिए? Short-term borrowing को long-term application में use करना चाहिए. Closure is 100% guaranteed. So, as per clause 9, the auditor is also supposed to report and find out, and remember that becomes an additional responsibility. That means the auditor will need to prepare the fund flow statement of the entity, because only when he prepares the fund flow statement of the entity he would be able to figure out as to whether any of the short-term sources have been used for the long-term application. So once he prepares the fund flow statement, he will figure out as to how much of the short-term sources have been used for the long-term purposes, and he would also be able to figure out as to where those funds have been used, and that is he has an obligation to report in case any of such thing has happened, where that means short-term sources have been used for the long-term applications. Whether the company has taken any funds for any entity or person on account of or to meet the obligations of its subsidiaries, associates or joint ventures. यानी कि अगर एक कंपनी ने अपने लिए नहीं, अपनी सब्सिडियरी के लिए या अपने जॉइंट वेंचर के लिए या अपने एसोसिएट के लिए पैसा लिया है, बोरो किया है, the auditor has to disclose that in the auditor's report. Whether the company has raised loans during the year on the pledge of securities held in its subsidiaries. So securities which are held in the subsidiary, but those securities which are held in the subsidiaries have been used for the purpose of raising a loan. If that is the case, that also will have to be disclosed as per CARO 2020. Then you have a clause 10, and clause 10 talks about the utilization of IPO and further capital for further public offer. So as per the clause 10, friends, the auditor will need to make a comment in his audit report with regard to as to during the financial year, has the company raised any money by way of IPO or by way of further public offer. It may be by way of a debt or it may be by way of equity. So in case if the company has raised any such funds, and then he will also have to comment as to whether the company has used these funds for the purpose for which they were raised. That because it is important, the company has to use the money for the purpose for which it is raising that money. If the company is raising those funds for something else, that means company is violating the good governance, and that has to be reported by the auditor in his audit report. And also in case if a company, and this clause that I am talking about was earlier part of the main, earlier was part of the CARO 16, and now it is removed as a separate point, but it is coming as part of clause 10. So in case if a company has raised funds during the financial year by way of preferential allotment or by way of private placement of shares or convertible debentures, and convertible debentures could be partly, fully, optionally, irrespective of that, so long as it is convertible into equity. If the company has raised money using convertible debenture or shares by way of preferential allotment or private placement, in that case the auditor has to report, or auditor has to comment in his audit report as to whether the provisions of section 42 for the private placement and provisions of section 62 for fresh issue of shares have been duly complied with. Number 1. Number 2, whether these funds which have been raised by way of private placement or preferential allotment, whether these funds have been used for the purpose for which they have been raised. That is what also will need to be reported as per the clause 10 of CARO. In case then there is a clause 11 which is on reporting of fraud. So there is a specific responsibility that the auditors have with regard to reporting of the frauds. So what the auditor has to do, he has to find out whether any fraud by the company or any fraud on the company has been noticed or reported during the year. If yes, then the nature and the amount involved is to be indicated. That's number one. Number two, whether any report under subsection 12 of section 143 of the Companies Act has been filed by the auditor in form ADT 4. That means what? That means in certain cases when the auditor believes that the fraud has been committed, and the fraud has been committed in connivance with the management of the company, in that case the auditor has the responsibility and the obligation to report such a fraud to the central government directly in form ADT 4. So whether any such thing has been done, it will need to be reported by the auditor in his audit report. Whether the auditor has considered whistleblower complaints, that is also what he would need to report in the auditor's report as per clause 11 of CARO. Point number 12, which is, friends, we might overshoot by 10 minutes. So it is already 6:01 and I think we should be able to close it by 6:10. So I suppose it's fine with everyone. Clause number 12 is about the Nidhi company. Nidhi company, of course, is not such common for most of us, but there are certain obligations in case if a person is auditing a Nidhi company, then there are three things that he has to comment on. Number one, whether the Nidhi company that he is auditing is having net own funds to deposits in the ratio of 1:20. In my view, the net own funds to deposits in the ratio of 120 is also dangerous, but whatever it is, it is. So the auditor has to report whether this ratio of 1:20 between the net own funds and the deposits is maintained. If it is not maintained, then he has to report it. Number two, whether the Nidhi company is maintaining 10% unencumbered term deposits as specified in Nidhi Rules 2014 to meet out the liability. So liquid funds has unencumbered हैं because the company can use them anytime it wants it, and it has to maintain for taking care of any unforeseen contingencies, whether the company are doing or not doing. And then you got a whether there has been any default in payment of interest on deposits by the Nidhi company, that will need to be reported by the auditor. Clause number 13 is relating to related party transactions, and friends, I am sure every one of us very easily understand that related party transaction is a very easy means of misusing the funds and misusing the business for the personal gains or unfair advantage in favor of certain people. And therefore CARO has a provision in clause 13 where the auditor has to specifically make comments and report about the related party transactions. And why is that so? So that the shareholders and the users of the financial statements are aware as to what kind of related party transactions are happening in this company. And if there are too many related party transactions happening in case of a company, that means apparently something is wrong somewhere. So as per clause, the auditor will need to report whether all transactions with the related party is in compliance with section 177, that is the audit committee. That means audit committee has to meet regularly and all the related party transactions need to be placed before the audit committee. Audit committee has to approve those related party transactions. Only when the audit committee approves those related party transactions, then only such transactions can be undertaken by the company and not otherwise. Then the details have been disclosed in the financial statements, etc., as required by the applicable accounting standards. So not only the requirements of section 177, which is on the audit committee, has to be taken care of and commented on by the auditor, he also has to comment whether the provisions of section 188, which relates to related party transactions, have been taken care of, also needs to be commented by the auditor. And plus, of course, whether the disclosure as per the applicable accounting standard are done or not, that also has to be commented by the auditor. And as regards the accounting standard, in case of a company where Ind AS have become mandatory, the disclosures will need to be made in the financials as per Ind AS 24. And in case if a company to which Ind AS is not applicable, then the account disclosures will need to be made as per Ind AS 1.8, which is again on related party transactions. Then you have a clause 14, internal audit system. So the auditor has to comment here whether the company has got internal audit system which is commensurating with the size and the nature of the business, and whether the report of the internal auditors for the period under audit were considered by the statutory auditors. So these are the two things. Number one, whether the company has got internal audit system which is commensurating to the size of the company, and number two, the statutory auditor in his report has also to mention whether he has looked at the report of the internal auditors, which is in his own interest, that he must always, every auditor must always look at the internal audit reports, and that is what he has to specifically comment. In case if there are, then clause number 15 is about non-cash transactions. Non-cash transactions would mean, that means something is happening where there is only the exchange is happening for kind and not for cash payment. So for under clause 15 relating to non-cash transactions, whether the company has entered into non-cash transactions with the director or person connected with him, and if so, whether the provisions of section 192, which is relating to restrictions on non-cash transactions involving directors of the companies, have been duly complied with. So in case if there are any non-cash transactions between the company and the directors or people related with them, then whether the provisions of section 192 have been complied with or not, he has to mention whether it is complied with or it is not complied with. Then you have a clause 16 which is registered under RBI Act. So the clause 16 is applicable in case of NBFCs and in case of core investment companies. So in case of an NBFC or in case of a core investment company, there are certain disclosures required to be made. The auditor has to confirm and comment whether those disclosures have been taken care of, or whether those compliances as per the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 have been duly complied with. So that will come. Then you have clause number 17, that is on incurred cash losses. So this is again, friends, a new provision. It was not there in CARO 2016. So agar a company incurs cash loss, and friends understand cash loss would mean what? Cash loss would mean that the revenue, the cash from the revenue, cash from the income of this company is not enough to take care of all his cash expenses. That means the cash income is less than the cash expenses. That means this company is incurring cash losses. And remember, incurring cash loss by a company is a very dangerous situation, and it does not foretell very good about the company. And therefore, very rightly, MCA in CARO 2020 has incorporated this clause 17, where the auditor has to comment upon as to if the company has incurred cash losses. And if the company has incurred the cash losses, the auditor will also need to report as to how much is the quantum of the cash loss. Remember, it's a very dangerous situation for any company to incur the cash loss. Incurring loss in any case is bad, but incurring cash loss is even worse actually. That means the company does not have enough money, enough cash coming from the operations to meet all its cash expenses. That's a bad sign. Then in case of resignation, clause 18, which is relating to resignation of a statutory auditor. So this is again a new clause. So in case if there is a statutory auditor which has resigned during the financial year, and remember there have been number of cases in last 2-3 years where the statutory auditors in case of certain companies have been resigning before completion of the audit, and that means there are certain issues. So the auditor in his report has to comment about the resignation of statutory auditor, and not only he has to comment about the resignation of the statutory auditor, but he also has to mention that what were the issues on account of which the statutory auditor resigned, and whether he has taken care of those issues, those concerns, those objections, and if he has, then how has he taken care of. So that's your clause number 18. Clause number 19 is about no material uncertainty about company's ability in meeting its liabilities. So obviously, friends, the auditor has a bigger responsibility here, and really a big responsibility here, because auditor has to make a comment about the ability of the business to take care of his obligations in next 1 year. So the auditor, by looking at the ratios, by looking at the fund flow, by looking at the cash flow, by looking at whatever he has to do, he has to make a comment whether he sees that there is a material uncertainty about company's ability in meeting its liabilities, or the company is quite comfortable in meeting its liability. So that is the comment that needs to be made by the auditor, and this means the auditor will need to really make a judgment. He will have to really apply his mind before he could make a comment about the ability of a businesses to take care of his obligations. That's your clause number 19. Clause number 20 is about, friends, transferred unspent amount to a fund specified in Schedule 7. So you have Section 135, which is on corporate social responsibility. And we all understand that as per Section 135 of the Companies Act, every company is required to spend 2% of the average net profit of past 3 years on corporate social activities. These corporate social activities are specified in Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, and therefore a company to which Section 135 becomes applicable, this company has to mandatorily spend 2% of the average net profit of last 3 years. And please remember, the net profit has to be calculated as per Section 198 of the Companies Act. सो ये कंपनी की जिम्मेदारी है, ये कंपनी की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि जो भी उसके 2% जो अमाउंट होती है इन दैट फाइनेंशियल ईयर दिस कंपनी हैज़ टू स्पेंड. इफ इट डज नॉट स्पेंड, then this company has to deposit this amount, unspent amount, in a specified bank account. That means the company cannot keep that money with itself. Company will have to deposit that amount in a specified bank account, and will ensure that within next 3 years this amount is spent on corporate social responsibility related activities as specified in Schedule 7. If it is not done, then the company will have to transfer these funds in a fund which is specified in Schedule 7 to the Companies Act. Now, auditor will have to examine all this and make a comment whether the company has spent the amount. If it has not spent the amount, whether it has deposited the amount to a specified account. If it is not deposited, that would need to be reported. If it is deposited and spent, that would need to be reported. And if it is deposited but not transferred to Schedule 7 fund after the expiry of 3 years, that will also need to be reported. And so that is your clause number 20 of CARO. And then finally, friends, this is again new, that is clause 21 is specifically a new clause which is for the purpose of consolidated financial statements, and that is whether there have been any qualification or adverse remarks by the respective auditors in the companies of included in the consolidated financial statement. So a consolidated financial statement would mean what? What means a parent company की जो कंपनियां हैं उन सबका इकट्ठा जो statement बनेगा, that is consolidated financial statement. So remember, friends, as I said in the beginning, clause 1 to clause 20 of CARO 2020 are not applicable to the consolidated financial statement, but clause 21 of CARO 2020 is applicable exclusively to the consolidated financial statement. And what it is going to comprise of? It is going to comprise of all the adverse remarks, qualifications, comments in all the entities which are getting consolidated by the respective auditor as per CARO 2020. So that is what will need to be incorporated in the financial statement of a consolidated financial statement as per CARO 20 clause 21. So friends, these are all the 21 clauses, and now of course as per clause 4 of CARO, the disclosures are to be made. So the auditor has to state the basis for such unfavorable qualified answers in case if there are any. And if for some reason auditor thinks that he cannot express an opinion on any specified matter covered in CARO 2020, then he has to also specify the reason as to why can't he do that actually. And so what are the tasks before the auditors under CARO 2020? Number one, auditors report to contain matters specified in para 3 and 4 of CARO. Number two, detailed scrutiny of all 21 matters by the auditor as given in CARO 20. No management certificate should be relied upon. So CARO 2020 के compliance के लिए management अगर बोलता है कि हम आपको certificate दे देंगे, उस पर भरोसा करके आप report कर दीजिए, not to be done. Point number 3, all 21 matters as given in CARO to be specifically included in the auditor's report and commented on. Number 4, para 4 subsection 2 of CARO says reasons to be stated for unfavorable or qualified answers. Number 5, compliance with the requirements of CARO 2020 to be specific part of the audit plan. That means when an auditor is planning the audit of an entity of which he is the auditor, at that point in time in his planning, he has to have a separate box of planning, and this is how he would carry out the audit of the issues mentioned in CARO 21. He will need to develop, point number 6, he would need to develop a checklist covering each of the 21 clauses of para 3 of CARO so as to ensure each and every aspect of those 21 clauses are taken care of. And finally, point number 7, preparation of a specimen draft report covering all possibilities as regards audit of the 21 clauses. And friends, finally the conclusion, if a faithful reporting, and this is very important, and I would like all of you to please pay attention to this because this is the crux of CARO 2020. This is the intent as to why the authorities wish to have the CARO 2020 in place. If a faithful reporting is done by the auditor in his audit report above 21 clauses of para of CARO, any person by merely reading this part of the audit report itself will be able to come to a fair conclusion about the health and financial performance of any business, which can then be used as the basis for further study and analysis. So friends, with this, I come to the close of my session. Thank you so much to every one of you. Thank you, Rishikesh, and thank you all the participants. More so, I would like to, of course, all the participants are always close to my heart. So all of you who have been attending all these sessions regularly, thank you so much. And we would again plan something similar kind, maybe next time in a different flavor and color. And I'm sure we will interact once again. So thank you so much, Rishikesh, and over to you. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so